Hey guys, this is Leetcode number 40, combination sum 2. First I'm going to go over the problem, then I'm going to go over what the solution looks like, and then I'll go over what the code looks like. So let's go over the problem. The problem's asking that you're given a sum of candidate numbers and a target number, and you have to find all the unique combinations in candidates that sum up to target. And you have to make sure that each number within candidates can only be used once. And they're also saying that all the numbers inside candidates, including target, will be positive. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the example looks like. So this is the array that we've been given of candidates, and this t equals 8 as the target that we're given up to. So now we have to kind of go through the array and figure out how many of these basically sum up to 8. So we'll just go through like one or two examples really quickly. So we have something like 2 and 6 equals 8, right? And then we also have something like 1, 1, or rather 1, 2, and 5. That equals 8. And so basically that's how you would do, that's how they got the answers, and you can see that those are some of the answers that they kind of gave us there. So let's take a look at how we would do this. So one thing we have to make sure of is that we don't reuse some of the things that we've already used, right? The same integers. And we can kind of do that by sorting the array. You'll see why this helps, but let's just go ahead and sort the array really quickly. There's another one. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, and 10. So then if we methodically actually do this just on paper, and then we'll try to come up with the function. So we start with this number, right? And then we try to generate every single pair from this number minus the target. So here we're looking at 1, right? But then target now is going to be equal to 8 minus 1. This is because we're assuming that for all the lists that we're going to be creating, we only have to get 7. Because we're assuming that all the list for now is going to contain the 1. So now we kind of go through this for a loop, right? Or we kind of go through this list. And the list kind of looks like this now. And we'll try to generate, we'll do the same thing we just did, right? Select the first one, try to generate all the other numbers within the list from a new target. So now the next one would kind of look like 2, 5, 6, 7, 10. So now your target here is equal to 7. And then we could start with this. And now t is going to be equal to 6, right? But we can, if we take this a step further, right, and we just say like, what is our for loop, or what is the loop that we were going to be in here look like? So just to explain to you like what we're doing here. So let's just say we're looping through I to candidates.length minus 1, right? So this is candidates.length for the second step. And now target here is equal to 7, right? So we're trying to generate basically an array list from this array list that we already have. And so what we can do is basically grab one number from this list and then try to subtract that from the target and then generate it from there incrementally, right, using recursion. So now we could have something like, we select the first one, so it's this 1, right? So then target will now be equal to 6. And now the list that we pass into there would kind of look like 2, 5, 6, 7, 10. or we can select 2, in which case our target looks like 5. And this is what our list kind of looks like. Or our target could be the third one, which is 5. And so our target now here looks something like 2. Alright. So then kind of looks like that. So you notice that as we're going down, we're not in the for loop, we're not including the previous ones like this. That's just to make sure that we're not repeating the number in the rest of like the array list that we have like going through it, right? We've already considered all possible courses that are going to be taking in 2. So why would we, in the next step, when we're thinking of all possible things for 5, include 2? We've already done that. We've already seen all the subsets that we can kind of make with 2. We don't need that anymore. We can try it with 5 and the rest of the stuff coming up afterwards, which is exactly what this loop is going to be doing. It's just going from the first and then continuing all the way to the end, right? And now let's take a look at the code really quickly. Okay, so here we already have the method header, and then so now the first thing we want to do is basically sort the array, right? As we talked about before, so we do arrays.sort. And next thing we want to do is create the return list. Sorry, it's supposed to be a list of lists. Let's call this res for result. And new array list. And then we want to also create like the temporary one that we're going to be using to basically like show what the current path looks like. Path is equal to a new array list. And then, so next what we'll be doing is basically creating another method that does like our actual incrementing thing and looping that I showed you before. So we're just going to call that DFS because this is technically a DFS problem. It's going to pass in the candidates, 0 for what we're currently indexing at, target, path, and res. And then at the end of this, we're just going to return the result, which is res. Right? Okay, perfect. And so let's write this DFS solution. This is just our header. Target. Integer path. And list of lists that we created for the return, right? So now first thing we want to check if the target is equal to 0. So we'll be decrementing the target as we go through the list. Each candidate we're considering will be subtracting that from the target. And then whatever list that we currently have from our path, we'll just create a copy of that, and then we'll add it to the overall list that we have. So now we also want to check for if the target is less than 0. That means if while we're subtracting this stuff, if we go below it, that means it's not like a possible candidate for something that's going to add up, right? So this is where we get to the for loop. And I is equal to occur. I is less than cand.length I plus plus. So the reason why we start at cur is because of what I mentioned like above, right? You don't want to consider the thing that you already consider, like the 2. You have to start at the 5 for the next loop. So that's why we start at the cur. And so here what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is going to add it to the current path, which is our array list. Just to make sure that the thing adds it to the back of the array list, we're going to give it a specific index to add it to. And then we're going to recurse. Sorry, I got a little messy there. Going to pass in cand. And then for cur, we're going to increment cur by 1 so we know we move on to the next thing. And here we subtract the current candidate from the target, like I mentioned before. And then just adding the path and res array list. And then at the end of this, we're going to remove the current one that we were doing. And that's basically it. That's the entire algorithm. Hope that made sense to you guys.